The story begins with a sharp status window pops up, which states that he was killed and the duration of survival is only 34 seconds. The guy is barely able to move his hands, crawling on the concrete. How could anyone die in a place like this? Numerous ruins and bright pink crystals peek out behind. The numbers in the status window change. You are killed. Survival time, 12 minutes 7 seconds. He's dying, over and over again, like it's some kind of Groundhog Day. But every time he is reborn again in this hell. Eating as he managed to get up, the brunette finds the strength to take some kind of board, starting to go forward. He doesn't know when it will end. After that, an empty span between buildings is shown. Clear, he must reach the shelter. But the dream is not destined to come true. From behind, the shock wave tears apart some of the stones before someone with a sword catches up with him. Again, you are killed. Survival duration, 42 minutes 8 seconds. He experiences death over and over again. Broken, cut, torn apart. It's a living nightmare. Who, I ask, would want to rush to this place of their own free will to satisfy their own torments? The blade of the sword screeching on concrete gives unpleasant in the ears, while the guy on trembling legs is barely able to stand still. The goblin starts heading towards the hero, increasing its speed. Swing and the blade touches someone else's neck without any problems. Falling dead, he breathes heavily before the appropriate inscription appears, and after a couple of seconds his eyes light up with hellfire. So, who will go to this place voluntarily? Well, for example, a fool like him. At one point, from some robots that hit the solar plexus itself. And again. Then he also dies, but already at the hands of goblins or orcs, whom he even tries to attack. But they deprive him of one upper limb with a light swing of the sword. But despite this, SSI swings his stick and pierces the monster's eye socket, squeezing out the eyeball. Hyunwoo survives for a short time, and then dies anyway. You are killed. Survival duration, 12 days, 6 hours, 58 minutes, 4 seconds. The very next time his opponents are the brainless dead, who manage to be laid down in a couple of minutes. But then the biggest wave approaches him. Zombies groan, stretch out their arms to him, and then completely pounce on him. They try to bite him and turn him into their own kind, but the hero manages to kick away one of the monsters that was on top before he starts using his teeth himself, tearing rotten flesh, breaking free from a tight grip. The inscription pops up, "You have cleared the location," followed by survival duration. 36 days and 3 seconds. The Star of Destruction, Tall, is watching your stream. Hungry Star, Yagulim, is watching your stream. Whispering Star, Monstrel, is watching your stream. These were the notifications after the battle. The hero jumps off a mountain of corpses, promising himself that he will simply take and destroy all these chattering stars. 30 years ago, dungeons began to open all over the world, and people began to realize what was happening. And the world smoothly entered a new era. However, the system gave him an assessment. A user with a level of 0 stars, an amateur, has no chance of developing superpowers. His destiny is to filter sewage for the presence of mono residues. He remembers his not particularly successful working day, where a guy in a special suit is digging in the water, looking at incomprehensible clots, before he looks up and notices some pink stone. A crystal of this size will surely allow him to pass the daily standard. Unfortunately, as soon as the fingers touch the unknown mineral, the legs give way, and the whole body immediately falls back with a loud splash of water. A blonde college employee, Yu-min, immediately runs up to Hyunwoo's eye, who asks the guy about his well-being after such a fall. One of the workers also warns the guy that it is especially dangerous to splash in this water, since it is infected with crystal moss mana, which is poison for them. Already in the locker room, when he receives money for his work, he immediately begins to be indignant, shouting mats right and left. It's only $30 damn. Then a man in a suit walks into the locker room, introducing himself as Robert Lee. Brown-haired says that he is a lawyer and brings his condolences for the loss of his father. He was looking for him to give away the inheritance of the deceased. Kang doesn't really understand what this is about and reports that he has no parents. A gold pendant falls into his hands, and what to do with it. Already at the stop in the Hwasong Mono working quarter, SSI is considering a new acquisition while Yu-min is sitting next to him. She says that this is the Stone of Return, an artifact that hunters use to return from the dungeons. Already at home, there are news on TV, which tells that the T-Sun clan led Lee Jai-T into battle. The raid on the Danjin Tebek 5 stars was a success. If he himself had at least a small chance to become the same, he would have taken full advantage of it. The palm tightens its grip on the dead man's pendant, but then it lights up bright red. The world is fading before my eyes. The hero appears in another place. The inscription "Welcome." It seems friendly in the status window, But once you look around, it becomes clear that there is no smell of friendliness here. A red sun and a dark sky do not bode well. In the blink of an eye, another window opens in front of him. Overcome yourself. Your body has found a source of mana and its circulation has begun. Having the lowest of the levels, you entered the location Hell. You got the SSS level luck effect. This effect will increase, compensating for the difference between your level and the location level. Receive the title, the strongest in Hell. You have achieved the impossible. You are the only survivor. And at first, the change of location shocks the young man, who is not even able to understand where he is. But any subsequent excitement disappears when he notices crystal moss. For a mineral of this size, Kang will be able to get several tens of thousands of dollars. He immediately grabs it without hesitation, but coughs violently with his own blood. SSI falls on his back, unable to breathe while the window pops up. The state of the body, poisoning, paralysis. The stamina level is decreasing. You have been attacked. You're dead. Killer, poison dust level 1. Survival time, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. For some reason, he wakes up completely in perfect health. Maybe it's a dream. But no, personal hell is still going on and is not going to end in the near future at all. Hyunwoo rises from the place of his past death while another notification appears in front of him. The task has begun, the first night in hell. The goal, to survive until dawn. Kang, of course, like an ordinary normal person, immediately succumbs to panic and immediately jumps to his feet, starting to run to the side, simultaneously pulling on his jacket. The hero thinks that someone set it up and is sure that he will definitely take revenge on this someone. But literally a second later a window appears. You are killed. Survival time, 5 minutes 22 seconds. 8 deaths later, Kang gives up and falls to his knees. Plan number 1, pray. And he really starts to pray, apologizes for all his sins, but it doesn't help. You are killed. Survival time, 11 minutes 13 seconds. And after another 11 deaths, he begins to stick to plan number 2, more toxic dust. He just sits down near the crystal moss and starts breathing. Your resistance to toxic substances has increased. Your resistance to nerve agents has increased. And then Kang was killed again. Already 14 deaths later, he managed to survive longer because of the inhaled dust. His stability increases again and he remembers the breathing exercises that some man taught him as a child and who says that SSI is the only one showing hope. A new level. You're dead. Survival duration, 41 minutes 21 seconds. Another 28 deaths later, the brunette begins to feel lightness in his body. A new notification pops up immediately. The concentration of poison in the blood has been exceeded. You have received rare skill, Poisonous Blood. The poisoning effect no longer deals you damage. The guy picks up the crystal again, examining it from all sides and wishing that it turned out to be real. The window pops up again. Collect crystal moss. It's a sin to refuse. You have an inventory. The mineral immediately disappears from the hands, which scares Kang very much, but he instantly calms down when he sees the parameters of the moss in the window. And then, there is some eerily familiar buzzing. That's just when he turns around, as he comes face to face with a huge pile of mosquitoes that persistently fly at him. The brunette immediately rushes to run, but the insects were clearly faster, starting to surround him. The achievement of the strongest in hell has brought you an increase in abilities. And yet, despite this, a swarm envelops him and a bunch of mosquitoes immediately rush into his open mouth, tearing him apart and drinking blood. However, literally in a couple of seconds all the midges burst themselves. A new level. Average achievement received. You have killed more than 100 monsters at the same time. The effect of poisonous blood is increased. He already finds himself in some building, clearly puzzled by what has just happened. You have contracted an infection. Health will decrease by a small percentage every minute. What the hell is going on? Kana is so infuriated by this understatement that he breaks the first chair in the room. New medium skill, disassembly. The last survivor effect has been activated. The regeneration process has begun. SSI has no choice but to try out his new skill. He picks up another chair, applying the skill, and the piece of furniture is sorted by components. The guy decides to make a stick with a nail out of it and gets the assembly skill. In that case, he should try to make a shelter for himself. He has no idea how long he will have to stay here and what enemies he will have to face, which means that it is necessary to get shelter for further survival. Kang decides to use all his crystal moss, but then notices a newspaper on the floor, in which only the star can successfully read. New medium skill, a foreign language. After that, he manages to make a sentence, double star liege it. It's also from the clan leader, which means he's on the same planet, but it's unclear at what time. Maybe this is the future. In any case, there's nothing you can do about it. but you can do something else. SSI decides to disassemble the corpses of mosquitoes that died from his poisonous blood, after which he receives sting, wings, and blood. What to do with them? The guy touches the cone with the last ingredient, deciding to create something. Hell dart rare. It's worth trying it out, isn't it? The brunette almost makes darts out of everything, and after putting them in a pile, decides to create something else. Great success. You have created an item secret egg legendary. You have an achievement, create the first legendary item. You have increased the level of your ability to create. It takes care of the egg so that it hatches. The chance that the embryo is alive is 50%. You can revive an item if you meet certain criteria, or spend your rewards on reviving it. Indeed, an egg the size of a fist appears in the palm of your hand. What the hell is not joking? Hyunmoo tucks the egg under his jacket, closer to his chest, before sitting down near the column, sighing heavily. But then I hear some creaking. A goblin appears in the doorway. He immediately notices the guy and rushes at him, and he immediately jumps off the spot and dodges a sharp blow. Where to run? He notices a flight of stairs and hurries straight to him, and the monster follows him. Kang immediately opens the inventory, realizing that he will have to use a weapon, and takes out a chair leg with a nail. But as soon as he swings, the goblin immediately disappears from sight, being on the ceiling and dodging the blow before jumping off in front of him. The goblin in the red hat level 20. How is it possible to fight with such a person normally? The monster runs away and swings the blade, blow after blow, block after block, before the main character's piece of wood breaks completely. The monster says something to him, but he can't make out the words, and then the brunette earns a deep incision on his entire chest. Undeterred and not panicking, he takes out a dart from his inventory and throws it towards the enemy, hitting him in the palm of his hand. The skin of the spasm begins to swell and become covered with blisters, but the goblin simply cuts off his hand. Fool. The guy closes his eyes, unable to stand such a sight, and is distracted. But when he opens his eyes, the goblin immediately disappears from sight. It turns out that he jumped up and inflicted the same cut on him, only now from the side of the youngster's back, tearing all his clothes to hell. The latter falls dead, while the monster himself mutters that not all the people were killed, while a grin plays on the lips of the SSI. The chapter begins with a drop in stamina level and a completed task. Damn it, he lived to see the dawn. You have received a silver chest in the amount of 1. A compensation bonus has been activated for the difference between your level and the task level. Instead of 1 silver chest, you will get 1 golden chest. You can use the return stone item before the start of the next task. The time until the next task is 14 days. The guy, who is still lying on the concrete floor before, grabs the pendant, causing it to glow. Hyunmoo opens his eyes while a fine rain is still dripping on him. He's back home. The brunette tears off his father's inheritance from his neck, wanting to crumble it on the ground, but during stops, remembering what he managed to survive in that hell. There were also positive moments, but then he is hailed by a worried Yuming, who immediately runs up to him and throws a cloak over an incomprehensible acquaintance, saying that because of the mana rain, he may be poisoned. We need to get back to the room as soon as possible. Already inside, he finally manages to say hello to the blonde normally. She gives him a decontamination agent against mana precipitation, while Kang himself continues to insist that he is not poisoned. Naturally, the employee does not believe him. That's why she breaks down and says that the guy is a complete idiot, who after all works with this very moss and knows himself how dangerous he is. Therefore, go wash and no bickering. After the shower, the main character finally allows himself to ask what the date is today. September 11th. Yu-min asks him what happened, as she herself could not get through to the patient for 2 whole days and was forced to work alone. A half-naked guy thinks that it seemed to him that he had been in that hell for almost several days, and the place where he had to be was a working quarter, so why was Kang here? And teleported out of the house altogether. The blonde, it seems, after looking at someone else's chest, finally reports that he needs new clothes, since the previous one is not only infected, but also cut. She orders him to stay where he is until she finds something to wear. Since she's gone, then you can finally see what he has in his inventory. He decides to open the same golden chest. You have received the legendary skill Help in Battle, and it seems that only 7 hunters have skills of such rarity, which means, is he the 8th? Yu-min finally returns with the clothes, and she and Kang sit down at the table, where she tells that she did not take him to the hospital because he looked pretty whole, so he is now at her house. The guy informs her that he has only recently acquired abilities, and then reminds the blonde about her recent study of crystal moss, before informing her that he needs help and takes out the same mineral from the inventory that he picked up at first, asking about its cost. The girl is clearly in shock. Yu Ming is in complete shock, immediately starting to examine the huge crystal in his hands, constantly asking about where he managed to get it from. The mineral is absolutely pure and not even 4, but all 5 stars. The guy asks to help him legally sell this moss, not intending to give a similar sample for someone else's research. The employee is clearly not very happy with this, explaining everything by the fact that such a crystal, because of its volume and purity, will require a bunch of documents. But SSI does not even listen to her, immediately splitting the extracted treasure in half, which is why she receives a slap and indignation in her direction, but reassures the interlocutor that he has more. She explains the behavior by saying that a crystal of such purity can be obtained only in the first dungeon in history. Hyunmoo, meanwhile, sets her only 2 conditions: do not tell anyone about where she got such a sample and do not tell what she sells for him. Having agreed, Yu Ming offers him to go for clothes later and spend the night. He does not refuse her. A week later, they go together to meet with the buyer. As B-Net worries that many crystal merchants are desperate people outside the law, they will offer a high price for the person to bring them all their supplies. And that's when, in any case, he has a bad feeling. They go into a cafe and the guy sees some male actor Ma Dong-seok, who looks too suspicious. But in the end, they meet with the right person, who is dressed like a typical detective, and the girl presents Kana as her business partner while that strange man is photographing a cat in the background. Park HWI so takes them to some other place, where he independently weighs the sample, checks the chips in his gloves, and only then asks Yu Min if he should transfer to the same account. Having received consent, the man says goodbye. It's a pleasure doing business with you. See you later, Kang Hyunwoo's eye. He behaves strangely, of course. Even the researcher notices that he never said that. Hyunwoo is only more alarmed by this, starting to think that everything could have ended with a knife in his back. The girl laughs at him, not denying such a scenario, but then immediately calms the guy down before showing him her bank account, to which $1 million was transferred. After that, we see Pak SSI, who is already sitting in someone's car, answering the owner's question that the deal went just fine, like the others. The latter also asks his opinion about the purity of the recent sample, because such can only be obtained in 5-star dungeons, which means that the hunter is very strong, once he was able to get it. And he's alone. It will be difficult to find such a person. Maybe the hunter is even from a foreign clan or just abroad, who sold him a similar one. The man answers honestly, a girl with her business partner. The interlocutor once again notices that the one who managed to get crystal moss is incredibly strong, even somewhere beyond the edge. HWI so chuckles and says that this unknown certainly does not compare with the captain. And also, you need to collect more information, especially since he asks for it himself. Captain Lee Jae-ti, who chuckles and says that he needs absolutely all the certificates for both sellers. The 6th chapter begins with the diligent training of the main character. He manages to pull himself up as many as 150 times before he breathlessly falls to the ground, breathing heavily. If he had been at home, he would have easily made 1,000, and in this hell everything is given with too much difficulty. He still has as much as 18 hours, 14 minutes and 58 seconds before the next task. It seems that after several outings, the guy can finally understand how much time passes in reality. If he subtracts the current indicator from the initial value of the time before the task, he will get the number of hours he spends here. But what still remains a mystery is this strange movement to a variety of places. Damn it, Kang doesn't understand this at all. Help in battle remembers the user's techniques and helps to perform them with greater accuracy. It also helps to predict the strategy and techniques of the enemy. Such a skill can be considered almost a cheat or a hack, but since he managed to get it from the system itself, it means that without it, it simply will not work here. SSI tightens special bandages on his wrists before he approaches the punching bag and swings for a punch before activating the newly acquired skill. Each time, not only the attack speed increases, but also its accuracy. He really remembers his movements and adjusts the accuracy of the attack. Amazing skill, of course. A new task has been received. The task companion for a beginner has been started. Kill the entry level 0 divided by 5 scarecrows. A beginner. Naturally, the guy himself is not at all happy with this arrangement. Why wasn't this assignment given to him from the very beginning? The window, as if by order, instantly pops up. Kang Hyunwoo 7 Stuffed animals. He had never even met such people in this hell. But it is necessary to raise the level. Nothing can be done. The brunette gets dressed after training and walks along the numerous ruins of a former civilization. The path would have continued further if his eyes had not stumbled upon a staircase leading down. You still need to check, don't you? The guy is in a hurry to check what can be in a kind of basement. Damn, it's like I'm in a horror movie. Inside there are robots that resemble humans in structure. Androids, if you look closer, do not really differ in letters, except for the number on the forehead. Some scary ones, so also the level is not specified. It remains to be hoped that they will not come to life suddenly, otherwise you can catch a heart attack. In any case, their abilities are not familiar to him, which means he should be on his guard. The brunette picks up some kind of wooden plywood, putting it in front of himself and the scarecrows, creating a small obstacle before taking out another infernal dart from the inventory. He aims precisely at the carotid artery before immediately hiding, preparing for the robots to attack at any moment, but nothing happens. Kang leans out from behind his shield, noticing with surprise that the androids have not moved an inch. Already without any fear, going out to the scarecrows, he swings and punches the first number in the temple, causing the robot to lean back, arch in the lower back, but he hit with all his might, but it seems that he didn't even break anything. That's just at the same second. A screeching is heard, which causes a screeching, and the android returns to its original position again. They instantly recognize the enemy, saying that they will start from the first level, and they themselves have the 7th. Had these things just set themselves a level equal to his own? The guy instantly reacts to someone else's movement, swinging for a blow. At least the scarecrows aren't as fast as goblins. In reality, level 7 is equal to 5 years of service in the army or working as a bodyguard. But in hell it's just a beginner. The skill help in battle is activated. They're all dead. The main character is surrounded by opponents from all sides. One of them raises his fist to hit Khan in the head, but he manages to bend his knees in time before he hits the solar plexus of the robot himself, but unfortunately does not have time to notice the movement from behind. The second opponent clamps his neck between his elbow and shoulder. Undeterred, SSI stabs Tom in the ribs and then in the cheekbone, telling him to finally fuck off. From such a force of impact, someone else's coating ripples, and all the gray paint falls down in pieces, exposing the iron base. The goal data has been updated. They start a second level battle. 2 robots grab the dumbfounded hero from behind, pulling his hair and wrists, and then grabbing his elbows, twisting his arms. 2 more grab the legs, holding them in place. It is at this moment that the scarecrow, whose faceplate has been crumbled, immediately runs to the target before he begins to hit Henma in the face, each time delivering stronger blows. The density of your body's tissues is increased. Blood clotting is increased. The pain threshold has been raised. The more hits, the faster all the parameters increase. The stamina level is below 10%. The strongest in hell perk has been activated. Regeneration has begun. Being on his last legs, the guy is finally released while he comes to his senses. Maybe he should just run away. But he didn't even break one. Barely getting up on shaky legs, Kang stretches out his hand, the palm of which immediately lights up with a bright yellow light before a piece of wood appears in it. Created, fortified infernal club. This weapon won't last you long, but it has great killing power. He immediately rushes at one of the androids, striking him on the shoulder, which completely demolishes the rest of the iron arm. But it's too early to rejoice at a small victory. Data on the goal has been announced. The rest of the robots react immediately, pulling out all sorts of different weapons from their forearms, starting from a pike and ending with a katana. You are killed. Survival duration, 5 days, 8 hours, 4 minutes, 16 seconds. The hero finds himself in the same basement again, starting from the second level. Although this is not particularly fair, he managed to tie the rest of the androids to the column. One by one, he will definitely be able to kill them, beating the scarecrow with the help of a new skill. He finally thinks about the body to the end, noticing that there is something yellow in his chest that looks like a core. The robot also says that it will now start a 3rd level battle, but frankly speaking, it doesn't matter. The stronger they are, the stronger he is. How many times is he already fighting them? Every time. The only thing he sees is that you are dead. Death after death that never seems to stop. The brunette is sitting near the column, all exhausted. How many martial arts are there in the database of these scarecrows? And one of them, as if on command, stands up in a stance, urging the guy to fight. Well, he doesn't mind. Attack after attack, during which Henmu even manages to pinch someone else's face with his foot, to which he receives news that the fight has been upgraded to the 4th level. Delighted with his victory, he does not have time to react when the robot pokes his fingers into his eyes. From the terrible pain, he almost rolls head over heels back to the column, immediately covering his face with his hands. But the robot was clearly not going to stay, opening its bright red mouth and digging into his left leg. This is even worse. Literally hellish pain permeates the whole body. You're dead. On the 9th time, Hyunwoo realized something. Firstly, that the 4th level of combat is the limit for scarecrows, and that the variations of techniques ended there. Secondly, the scarecrows have a script of movements and techniques beyond which they are unable to go. If you interrupt the script halfway, the scarecrow slows down because the new script is being adapted to the situation. Thirdly, it is not necessary to destroy the effigies. After receiving a certain percentage of damage, they are disabled. Therefore, there is no need to break them to the end. And after Kang realized all this, a series of victories followed. You have won, and again, and again, and again. And he is so angry that the task is not counted to him, that he gathers everyone almost in a heap, instantly spreading it with one strong blow. You have completed the novice assistant task. It is worth seeing what kind of reward they will give him, and only then come back. The SSS level luck perk increases the value of your rewards. A golden card appears in his palm, a heavenly cradle, which soon turns into a yellow handkerchief. You have received an item, Heavenly Cradle Legendary. Action of the item, a textile product with the effects of stimulating growth processes, wound healing and mechanical damage. Kang decides that this handkerchief did not give up to him at all, especially when he dies and is reborn. He is always fresh as a cucumber. Well, to hell with it. Just sell this rag, because legendary items are quite expensive. Opening the inventory, he wants to put the Heavenly Cradle, but then notices that he still has an egg. There was something about growth in the description, so maybe it's time to try. But nothing happens with the covered egg for a while either. But when the hero touches it, then it lights up with a bright flash, and the fabric with the shell crack. For a moment, the guy even thinks that some terrible monster may appear from there, but another crack is heard. It's hatching. The room is illuminated by a bright light, and looks out of the egg. Little white-haired girls with mosquito wings. Is it really a fairy? Out of curiosity, he reaches out to her. But when she sees someone else's finger, the girl immediately bites him, which makes Kang instantly raise his hand, which causes it to fly off somewhere into the wall. She says she's hungry. He offers her a piece of candy, but the fairy is in no way, and then SSI points to himself. After receiving a nod, he has to put up with it and feed the baby. She drinks his blood, and then stops the bleeding, ordering them to bring dessert as well. The guy is clearly not happy with this and grabs the unfortunate in the palm of his hand, starting to squeeze tightly so that she apologizes. The girl stops only at the word butler, but the brunette has no desire to prove the opposite to her in any way. They decide to introduce themselves to each other, where the girl forgets her name from the beginning, but then immediately remembers when Hyunwoo calls her a mosquito fairy. In fact, she is a post-apocalyptic fairy. She swore that she would devour all living things. It seems she needs to be nailed down before it's too late. How is this little thing even going to devour all life on the planet? It's crazy. Moreover, his blood is very poisonous. When the dart with it hit the goblin's hand, it immediately blistered. Yes, she also ate from the belly, judging by the stomach, which the guy immediately touches, involuntarily tickling the baby. And he can't even use the help in battle effect, since it's not hostile. Kang also has no idea what her combat skills are, and it doesn't look like it will be possible to get rid of it somehow. Maybe then make friends and make her a companion. Meanwhile, Feb asks to eat again. The brunette frankly tells her that he absolutely does not care if she eats the whole world or not, and then finally gives her a name, because it is very difficult to call her your post-apocalyptic fairy every time. Rainian is clearly pleased with what the butler has chosen for her. She explains this by saying that in the language of their race it is similar to the word phrase messenger of the apocalypse. The guy sets conditions for her that if she is going to be his companion, then it is worth promising just one thing, not to eat people, namely him. Even if she is very, very hungry and dying, then let her find someone else, and she does not touch her at all. Rainian was upset at first, but when she heard that he promised her his blood, she immediately returned to her usual mood, clearly preparing for another hearty dinner. After that, she points to the scarecrows, asking if they are people by chance. No, of course, these are just victims of his great martial art. And yes, damn it, Hyunwoo is very pleased with himself, but after he notices one important detail. One of the robots is torn in half. Not happening. He wouldn't have the strength to do that. And then the status window pops up. The skill help in battle has received the upgrade heroic strength. I wonder if it only works within the framework of the use of the skill. The guy decides to raise one of the bots. Practice is always the best test. Kang raises his fist to strike, and the subsequent force was so strong that it easily demolished the entire upper limb of the dead scarecrow. Pixie is almost glowing with happiness together with the owner, wanting to try it as soon as possible. She blows someone else's head in the blink of an eye before they hear a metallic voice. The enemy is recognized. Half-dead pieces of iron are moving towards them, but they are not going to attack. They say that the brunette was recognized as a Superman. Attack mode has been disabled. Not really understanding what they mean, he is going to attack the scarecrows, but then notices that they are pointing somewhere. Opposite them is some kind of blockage with all sorts of garbage. Gradually sorting out all the junk, Rainian informs his butler that he smells something delicious and directs him in the right direction. They find the skeleton of some man who is sitting at a desk. Pixie immediately starts gnawing the bones. Kang immediately scolds her, saying that you can't eat the dead either, which the baby is offended by. Putting a part of the phalanx into place, he notices a letter which he immediately began to read. I made a lot of mistakes. It's been 3 years since the difficulty level has risen to nightmarish. Life has been getting worse ever since. As soon as they were born and inhaled the poisonous air of our world, children immediately died. The owners of superpowers also could not stand this life and died one by one. Hope is melting every day. Humanity will not survive. It turns out that the hell he is in now is the future of their world. And it turns out that the highest caste with superpowers has also died out. In the continuation of the letter, everyone thinks about suicide, except me. 3 days ago, Pastor Johan committed suicide. Professor Park Hye-seok followed him yesterday, but then Pixie attracts his attention in time, taking out the stone of return from under the deceased. It doesn't look like his own. Having asked to look, he immediately touches it, which makes the pendant light up in the palm of his hand. But there is no way to remove the hand, especially since contact only brings burning pain. A huge flash, after which smoke begins to form, does not bode well. The palm, as if it was set on fire, begins to tremble, and the emblem that was on the stone appears on the inside. The stars are watching you, and then the ceiling breaks, revealing a view of the boundless cosmos. Pixie immediately leaves his butler, saying that he can handle it alone, while Kang himself does not understand what is happening at all, and the cosmos is expanding. Soon the endless space with stars completely envelops someone else's body, absorbing it entirely. The brunette opens his eyes and there are only boundless stars and emptiness in front of him. Where is he? Pixie's call leads to nothing. The advancing star, Barul, knows that you have absorbed the star fragment. Here, out of nowhere, some kind of comet flies out, scaring the unfortunate guy terribly. Barul is disappointed with your reaction. He refused your fragment of the star and withdrew. Who is it at all that he is allowed to be disappointed in him? The brunette hits the status window, shouting that he sees this for the first time and does not know anything about any stars there. The information is unblocked. The lords of the stars are cosmic beings, each ruling his own kingdom. These beings put pieces of their power into star fragments and send them all over the universe, in order for these fragments to find worthy agents who can serve the lords of the stars and help them expand their possessions. User Kang Henmu found a stellar fragment, and that means the Star Lords want you to become one of them. SSI abruptly realizes that the stone they found with the fairy was not a return at all, but a star fragment. A sound is heard here, and then a huge red dot appears, which soon splits into several colored comets. The yellow one flies up to him first. The Whispering Star, the monster, wants to develop your talent for charm, with which you can captivate and mislead everyone around. Then Orange, the Conquering Star, Arden, promises to teach you how to command an army of steel and fire. Pink, the Hungry Star, Yungilim, invites you to go with him in search of the serpent that swallowed the planet. Blue, the Star of Destruction, Tall, offers you a whole world that can be controlled by someone else's hands. Green, the Star of Tears, Verd, promises that one day you will become the Lord of the Dead. What are they about anyway? These creatures see potential in you and want to invest in your development. They are waiting for you to demonstrate your abilities. Please choose a star. How should he choose? He needs details. The Star of Destruction, Tall, a gray cardinal who enjoys strategies and conspiracies. He controls the masses while remaining unknown. His weapon is a dagger and poison in the wrong hands. He is the mastermind of any conspiracy. Its adherents are secret organizations that rule the world. The Star of Tears, Verd, the father of grief and sorrow, the lord of the army of the dead. His element is human despair and grief of loss, unfulfilled hopes and hopeless struggle. The Hungry Star, Yungilim, insatiable greed, embodied in the form of a snake. There is always hunger in his kingdom, and he wants to devour the entire universe. Whispering Star, Monstrel. Her element is the inciting of passion in the light of day and treachery under the cover of night. It shines brightest next to the one who radiates light himself. Anyone, even the most powerful being, will fall at her feet if she wants to. The Conqueror Star, Arden, the star of madness and impotent anger. He burns out everything with fire and cuts out all the enemies to one. In his senseless anger, he wants the world to burn with fire, and he doesn't care if he only rules the scorched earth. The stars are drawn to those who are like them. Kang, apparently, takes it all to heart, talking to the status window about the fact that he perceives him as an intriguer, a womanizer, a sadist, a greedy person, and just some kind of maniac who is obsessed with genocide. He personally can admit that he is not good at all. No matter how you look at it, there are no positive qualities in it. The main character immediately begins to think about all his actions, but none comes to mind. In any case, SSI is not like these stars, but he has a better question. What will happen when he chooses a star? Tall flies up to him and instantly expands to a huge size to show the youngster the future with one choice or another. He will defeat all monsters, become popular, and get his own army. Please choose a star. Hendu has already been through so much, but they are clearly not telling something. The guy asks what will be required of him in return. To serve the chosen star, nothing more. The stars patronize and help their ward grow up, and then act through him. These are all conditions. Is it possible to do this later? The opportunity to choose a star is a very rare and important event. When the stars are convinced that you are able to overcome any obstacles, they will elevate you to incredible heights of power. It turns out that they cannot offer him something now, but only in the future. The stars are outraged by your arrogance. Apparently, it's him who needs to watch his tongue. Kang explains this by saying that getting power without effort is great, but they found it right. He doesn't know them, and they already offer to make a choice for his whole life. He has no guarantees and no contract, and in the world of people it is accepted quite differently. Arden, the conquering star, has lost interest in you. Well, so far. The stars tell you that they will give you time to think. The guy thanks them for their care, before the boundless space disappears, and he finds himself in the basement again. Only another yellow star has followed him. The monster flies up to his hand and shocks him before flying back. Stung, the whispering star, Monstrel, has awakened a skill in you. New skill, Overlord, class, Legendary. It looks like he's just been bribed. It's kind of weird. If they are so powerful that they can give out such skills to everyone, then why couldn't they stop the extinction of humanity at such a complexity? There are many people in his time who could become worthy agents, but even people with superpowers could not stop the end of the world. And if it was their plan to destroy the Earth, we need to learn more about the stars. He has been back to reality for 3 days now. He was building up his power in hell, but he has matured the understanding that there are some issues that he needs to solve in the real world. For example, the absence of a single return location, because now he was returning through the forests. Kang teleports anywhere and looks like a shabby bum. He needs to come back more discreetly. In the same funny way, he is already sitting at Yu Ming, saying that he urgently needs to buy a house. She didn't really appreciate the idea. Hyunwoo continues to claim that in the end, there are native walls and their own personal space, strong walls and the like. The girl explains to him that he has a lot of money, but he got it illegally, did not even register as a user of superpowers. According to the documents, SSI is a level 0 star amateur, unemployed and hanging around her neck. The guy, of course, is in decline, but the blonde quickly tries to cheer him up, saying that people just won't understand where he got so much money from. Perhaps Yu Ming is right, and buying a house, especially one that he likes, will not work at all, and people around him will ask how he could afford such a thing with his beggarly salary. But it is better, perhaps, to register as a user of superpowers in order to better manage your finances and finally get a rank. At least that's what he thought while he was cooking breakfast with a towel on his head. The star that touched him. Why does the system ask you to choose one at all? Every offer is tempting, why choose? We need everything at once. I don't care that the apocalypse awaits the planet. He only needs to become stronger and survive everyone. Then he will be left alone and will be the king of the world. The brunette will do everything so that all the stars give him their powers at the same time. Yu Min, meanwhile, asks him to stop posing with chopsticks. The news is on TV. The captain of the T-Sun clan, Lee Jae-ti, has announced an upcoming expedition to Danjin Baekdu. It was a long-standing plan of the clan to barricade it and ensure the safety of the people of Korea. The heroes notice that this is the first time since the disaster in North Korea. The population was forced to leave the country due to a massive leak, a massive escape of monsters from the dungeon into the real world. Since he himself is 5 stars, the monsters there are appropriate, and you can only fight them with a mana gun. It's sad to go there, and Yu Min thinks it's because Lee Jae-ti is the only one who managed to clean it up. None of the clans had ever thought of carrying out such an operation before. The state testing of superpowers users will take place in 3 days. A record number of test takers is expected this year. The Tisu clan will be looking for recruits to raid Baekdu next year. He definitely needs to go there. The blonde only makes him eat, not watch TV. A lot of people really came to this testing. Some guy even calls Kang uncle, but immediately apologizes as soon as he notices the withering look on himself. He just notices that the brunette looks like a beginner, and the only time he was tested was when he was a child, in a boarding school. It is possible to learn from the young man that the commission does not separate hunters and newcomers, which means that there is complete confusion. The queue is just a bunch, small, and no one is watching it at all. And the hunters are here in general because of the Tisu clan, and he himself is here just to upgrade his level. He doesn't tell anyone, but the commission can officially confirm that his superpower is very useful for society. Actually, registration is proof that a person is worth something in this world. Moreover, it's like a form of control, if you think about it that way. It is always easier to observe a registered user. He just needs to reach a higher status and he will be able to do whatever he wants. The test will take place in 3 stages: identification, evaluation of characteristics, and evaluation of skills. The first is just checking the documents, but it seems that the girl at the table sees a good difference between the photos. An analysis is taken to evaluate the characteristics, and later you get the results. And then, assessment of skills or combat abilities. The norm is about 100, but the test results are summed up, so it's not a big deal if less comes out. Hyunwoo puts his hand into a special device, continuing to think. A high score is far from an indicator of how good a hunter is in battle, and they won't pay much attention to a low score. One of the specialists says that there is a special ball inside that needs to be compressed. Kang searches the device with his palm, and when he finds the right object, he immediately squeezes it. But so much so that it just bursts. Oops, it was awkward.